Listen to me, ladies. You've been told it's your looks, your smile, maybe your confidence, but here's the brutal truth. None of that makes a man fall in love. Yeah, those things might grab his attention for a minute, but they don't keep him. They don't reach that deep place in his heart where real love lives. Because real love, the kind that makes a man choose you over every other woman on the planet, starts somewhere you probably ain't even thinking about. There's one thing that makes him see you as the one. Music. And no, it ain't sex. It ain't playing hard to get. And it sure ain't pretending to be somebody you're not. It's something he doesn't even realize he's looking for. But once he sees it in you, something shifts. He can't shake you. You music stay on his mind. You become his standard. And the craziest part, most women have this power, but almost nobody uses it. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly what that one thing is and how to activate it in any man starting today. Whether you're in the talking stage, in a relationship that feels like it's fading, or you're trying to figure out why men pull away after things seem to be going good, this could be the missing link. So, don't skip ahead. Don't click away. Because the minute you understand this, you'll never have to wonder if he's falling for you again. This ain't a game. This is the truth, and it changes everything. Let's get into it. Now, you've probably heard me say it 100 times. Men are simple, but let me tell you where people get it wrong, and that is a dangerous lie. It leads women to chase surface-level strategies, thinking they need to look perfect, hide their emotions, or play the cool girl just to keep a man muse interested. But here's what's really going on behind the scenes. The myth says men only want physical attraction, no drama, and a good time. But let me flip the script for you. What men actually crave, especially the kind of men worth keeping, is something we won't say out loud. Something we often don't even know how to name. We want to feel safe with you, emotionally safe. Not just in a sweet, nurturing way, but in a way that makes a man feel like he can show you every part of himself, and you won't judge him for it. Most men grow up being told to hide their feelings, stay strong, and never show weakness. So when a woman comes along who makes him feel accepted, not for his paycheck or his image, but for his soul, it disarms him. That's when the walls come down. That's when real attachment starts. But because of the myth, women get stuck trying to be chill, or constantly available, or endlessly understanding, hoping he'll choose her. And the more you overgive, the less he values it. Why? Because deep down, he's not falling in love with the version of you that's always giving. He's falling in love with the version of you that's real.
Music.
The real you. The one with standards, opinions, depth, and boundaries. That's what actually draws a man into love. He might sleep with the woman who says yes to everything, but he loves the woman who makes him step up. And here's something that might shock you. Men, don't fall in love during the romantic moments. They don't fall in love during the candlelit dinner's music or the deep kisses. They fall in love in the in-between. It happens in the small, unscripted moments when you challenge him to be better, when you call him out with compassion, when you let music him sit in silence without trying to fix it, when you see his fear and don't flinch, when you walk away instead of begging for clarity. That's when he realizes you're different. Because any woman can be pretty. Any woman can send flirty texts and laugh at his jokes, but not every woman can meet him where he hides the most. And here's where the myth really falls apart. Thinking men don't want emotional depth. The truth is, men are starving for it, but we've been trained to run from it until someone shows us how safe it can feel. And when you become the person who can hold space for that, without losing yourself in the process, you stop being a music option. You start being home. So if you've ever thought, why do men pull away after things go well? Or, why do I keep attracting emotionally unavailable guys? It might be because the myth made you focus on what men seem to want, not what we really need. And the truth is, once you understand the difference, you hold the key to his heart. Not through manipulation, not through games, but through real emotional presence. That's what builds love that lasts. That's what makes a man think, she's the one. Not because you were perfect, but because you saw the parts of him he thought no one ever could. And that breaks the music myth completely. There's one emotional trigger that creates a shift in a man so deep he doesn't even realize what's happening until he's already music attached. It's not lust. It's not admiration. It's something much more powerful, emotional significance. Every man underneath the ego and the surface desires is quietly looking for one woman who makes him feel like he matters in a way no one else ever has. And I don't just mean feeling praised or appreciated. It's deeper. It's the moment he feels emotionally seen, not for what he does, but for who he is when nobody's watching. That's the emotional trigger. The spark that tells his heart, this is safe, this is real, stay here. Now here's the twist. Most women are trained to focus on being desirable, beautiful, successful, supportive. But that's not what activates this trigger. What flips that emotional switch is when a woman reflects back to a man his inner world with zero judgment and full presence. Let me explain. When a man is talking about something that don't seem like a big deal, maybe a frustration at work, a childhood memory, music, a hesitation about the future, most people brush past it. But when you tune into the feeling behind his words and mirror that back in a subtle, grounded way, he feels something he's likely never felt before. Emotional recognition. Sounds like this. I get why that would bother you. It's not even about the job. It's about feeling like your music efforts going unnoticed, right? Or, you probably don't hear this enough, but the way you handle pressure is actually pretty rare. Not flattery, not fake compliments. It's about witnessing his truth and reflecting it back. Most people only meet a man's outer layer. But when you can sit in silence and hold space for his inner self, the messy, unsure, still healing part, you become a mirror he never knew he needed. And that makes you unforgettable. The emotional trigger is safety plus significance. He needs to feel like he can be his full self and still be respected, desired, and accepted. And here's the catch. You can't fake this. You can't use this as a tactic or say these words like they're lines from a script, because men can feel when it's genuine and when it's strategic. This kind of connection happens when you're grounded in your own emotional intelligence, when you're not afraid of that, and you don't need him to entertain you, validate you, or prove anything to you. You're not trying to fix him. You're not trying to impress him. You're just there, present. And in that presence, he feels something he didn't even know he was longing for. Think about it. Most women are trying to be liked, but the woman who triggers deep emotional connection ain't focused on being liked. She's focused on being real. That's what stands out in his heart. This is why some women, even if they're not conventionally beautiful or loud or fleshy, leave a mark on men that lasts years. Because it's not about looks, it's about energy. about how he feels when he's around you. And when a man feels emotionally significant in your presence, he associates you with peace, power, and authenticity. That's when he starts prioritizing you. That's when he starts opening up, showing up, and wanting to invest. Not because he's trying to win you, but because something inside him knows you're the safe place. You're the one who sees him, and that's the trigger no man can resist. Let's talk about what actually works. Because theory is nice, but real life shifts happen when you see how this plays out in everyday moments. One of my clients, let's call her Maya, was dating a guy she really liked. Smart, charming, emotionally available, or so he seemed. But every time things started getting deeper, he'd pull back just a little. Not ghosting, not disappearing, but just enough to make her question herself. She used to respond by chasing, over-explaining, over-giving, saying things like, "It's okay, I understand you're busy," or "I just want you to be happy." But during one coaching session, we reframed everything. I asked her to try something simple but powerful. Instead of proving she was worthy, she showed up already believing she was. So the next time he pulled back, she didn't panic. She didn't send 3 texts. She simply said, "Hey, I noticed some distance lately. I really value connection. And when it feels off, I don't chase. I pause."
Music.
If something's on your mind, I'm here. If not, that's okay too. That one message changed everything. He responded within minutes, not just with reassurance, but with openness. He told her he'd been overwhelmed at work and appreciated how she saw him without pressuring him. Because what works ain't always what's loud. What music works is clarity plus calm energy. Let me give you another one. Rachel, she was always told to act cool with guys. Don't be too emotional. Don't be too deep. Just be fun. But fun only took her so far. The connection always fizzled out until she changed one thing. She started being honest in the moment. On a date, the guy asked, "What are you looking for?" And instead of being vague, like just seeing where it goes, she said, "I'm not rushing into anything, but I'm also not afraid of depth. I value partnership, and I'm open to where this could go if it feels right." He blinked, sat back, and said, "Wow, that's refreshing." They ended up dating. Why? Because she wasn't trying to fit into his idea of what he wanted. She presented herself as the prize. God, and men feel that. It makes you unforgettable. Real connection doesn't music come from trying harder. It comes from being rooted, from showing up in your value, not begging to be chosen. Music. Another quick story. This one's my favorite. A woman I worked with had been married for years, but the spark was gone. She said, "I don't think he sees me anymore." And instead of trying to reignite it with lingerie or vacations, she did something more real. She sat down and said, "I miss being seen by music you. I miss being touched, not out of routine, but out of want. And I don't want to lose us in this numb space. Can we start talking again?" "Like really talking," he cried, literally cried, because he'd been feeling the same, but didn't know how to say it. That one conversation brought them back to each other. The point is, real moments work. God, not perfection. Not being what you think he wants, but showing up raw, clear, and steady. What works is saying what you mean without fear. Letting go of overperforming, holding space without shrinking yourself, being the woman who knows she's a magnet, not a chaser. These examples ain't fairy tales. They're just women who stopped trying to win love and started living in it. You don't have to become somebody else to make him fall. You just have to be more of you, muse with truth, softness, and standards. And that's what makes all the difference. Let's be real. There are some things that turn men off instantly, and most of the time women don't even realize they're doing them. These are subtle shifts as energy, behavior, or communications that slowly chip away at attraction. And it's not about being too much or too emotional. It's deeper than music that. What really turns a man off is when he senses that you don't trust yourself. That shows up in 1,000 small ways. It looks like second guessing everything you say, constantly checking in to see if he's still interested, editing yourself to match his energy instead of owning your own. That vibe of insecurity don't say I'm not good enough. It says, I'm waiting for you to tell me I am. And here's what's wild. Even the most emotionally available men will start to pull away when they feel like they're becoming somebody's emotional oxygen. When you rely on him to feel whole, to feel seen, to feel safe, that's when attraction quietly begins to die. Because the truth is, the kind of man who's truly worth your time doesn't want a fan club. He wants a woman who already knows she's worthy, who doesn't need to beg, convince, or perform to earn his love. Another major turnoff: passive aggression and emotional games. When a woman says, I'm fine, but clearly ain't, or gives the silent treatment instead of expressing her needs, or tries to trigger his attention by pulling away dramatically. Music seem like a power move, but to a grounded man, it just feels immature. Healthy men don't want to decode you. They don't want to guess what's wrong. They're not turned on by confusion. They're drawn to clarity. Saying what you mean without a side of manipulation, that's magnetic. But the second he feels like he's in a game he didn't sign up for, he emotionally taps out. And we need to talk about emotional overexposure too early. A huge misconception in dating is thinking vulnerability means spilling your entire heart out on date. 2, sharing your trauma, your fears, how your ex betrayed you, how you're afraid this won't work out either. Listen, vulnerability music is powerful, but only when it's paired with emotional boundaries. Men are turned off when vulnerability feels like emotional dumping, when it feels like you're handing them your heart out and saying, here, please fix this. It don't create intimacy. It creates pressure. What's far more powerful is controlled vulnerability, where you share small, honest pieces of yourself without expecting somebody else to carry your emotional weight. That builds trust. It builds curiosity. It invites him into your world rather than forcing him to hold it. Also, neediness disguised as being caring is a big one. Constantly texting, asking for reassurance, wanting to be in constant contact, checking if he's still interested, music every day. That behavior don't say, I care. It says, I don't believe you'll stay. And that fear-based energy kills the space attraction needs to grow. Here's the truth. Men don't fall in love with pressure. They fall in love in space, in respect, in the moments where they get to choose you, not feel obligated to show up for somebody who's emotionally clinging. So, what turns a man off instantly? Busy energy that feels desperate. Conversations that lack depth or emotional maturity. Inconsistency between your words and actions. Fear-based behaviors disguised as love. You don't need to be perfect. You music just need to be grounded, because confidence is the opposite of neediness. And emotional responsibility is the foundation of real connection. At the end of the day, it's not about chasing love. It's about embodying the energy that love is drawn to. God musica. And when you do that, he don't run. He leans in God musica willingly. Lasting attraction ain't built on chemistry. It's built on emotional gravity. And here's the secret. That gravity don't come from being exciting. It comes from being anchored. When a man meets a woman who feels deeply rooted in herself, who radiates both warmth and self-worth, something inside him stops. It's like a reset, a pull. Not the kind of attraction that fades after the thrill wears off, but the kind that deepens over time. And this is where most people get it wrong. They chase moments. They chase music, butterflies, big romantic gestures, over-the-top dates. But those don't create lasting attraction. That's spark, not substance. Real attraction, the kind that makes a man stay, music, grow, invest, comes from emotional rhythm. Think about it. The women who leave a mark on a man's heart are rarely the ones who tried the hardest. They're the ones who stayed true to their values, who knew how to give without losing themselves, who could hold music space and hold boundaries. You don't need to be the most beautiful woman in the room. You just need to be the woman who feels good to be around, the one who makes him feel calm, seen, music, and curious. The woman who ain't trying to prove her worth with constant attention, music, or approval seeking, but who shows up with openness and standards. That balance, that's unforgettable. Here's the truth. Men stay attracted to women who music trust themselves, who trust their voice, their timing, their intuition. Women who can say no without guilt and yes without fear. Because when you trust yourself, you don't need a man to define your worth. And ironically, that's what makes a man want to keep earning a place in your life. One of the biggest myths in dating is that men lose interest because women change. But more often, they lose interest because the woman they were originally drawn to starts abandoning herself in the relationship. She starts adjusting, pleasing, minimizing, trying to keep the peace music instead of standing in her full truth. That's when attraction fades. Not because she became too much, but because she stopped being her. So how do you create lasting attraction? By being consistent in your core energy. Be the woman who says what she means. Be the woman who don't get reactive at the first sign of distance. Be the woman who knows that space is not rejection. It's just music space. Don't try to avoid conflict to keep him happy. Lean into real conversations. Show him you're emotionally available without being emotionally dependent. Music. And most importantly, don't abandon your standards just because you're afraid he'll walk away. Because the right man, he's not turned off by your boundaries. He's drawn in by them. He's not looking for somebody who lets him lead everything. He's looking for somebody who walks beside him. Somebody who inspires him to rise. Not somebody who bends just to keep him music close. Attraction lasts when there's mutual emotional maturity, when there's polarity, your softness meeting his strength, your clarity grounding his chaos, your presence making him feel more like himself. That's what sticks. That's what stays. So don't focus on being liked. Focus on being felt. Let music him experience your essence, your voice, your energy, and let him come to the conclusion himself. She's not just a vibe. She's a connection I don't want to lose. And that right there is how lasting attraction is born, music, and how it never fades. Words have power. But not just any words. The right words said with the right energy at the right moment can melt a man's heart in ways he'll never forget. And the crazy part, it's usually not the big dramatic confessions that land the deepest. It's the simple, soul-level things that most women never say out loud, guy, because men ain't usually taught how to express what we crave emotionally. We might not even have the language for it ourselves, but when we feel it through your words, something inside us softens, walls come down, guards fall. That's when real connection begins. What you need to know. The words that truly melt a man's heart are the ones that make him feel safe, seen, and music significant. It's not about boosting his ego. It's about reaching the part of him no one else sees. It sounds like, I love how your mind works. You make me feel like I can slow down and breathe when I'm with you. Oh, you don't have to fix everything. I just love that you care so deeply. See, it's not about performance. It's not about what he does for you. It's about affirming who he is when he's just being himself. And those words hit different. Because while the world might admire his success or strength, very few people reflect back the softness and soul underneath all of that. Here's another one that always lands. Being music with you makes me feel calm, like I'm safe to be fully me. Why does this melt a man's heart? Because men spend so much of our lives in performance mode. Being strong, being capable, being providers. But when you let him know that his presence, not just his actions, creates emotional safety for you, it hits a part of his heart that craves music, purpose, and connection. Want to know a phrase that instantly shifts the energy? I appreciate how you show up. Not thank you. Not you're amazing. Those are great, but they're general. When you say specifically that you notice how he shows up for you, for others, for himself, it feels intentional. It tells him you're watching music, that you're present, that you see him beyond the surface. And then there are words that bring out his protector instinct. Not because you're helpless, but because you're allowing him to support you. I feel so held when I'm with you, like I don't have to carry it all alone. This don't signal weakness. It signals trust. And trust is the ultimate heart opener for a man. When you speak from a place of empowered vulnerability, your music activate his natural desire to protect, provide, and pour into you. The real magic in melting his heart is this. Speak to his core, not just his confidence. Touch the part of him that's human, not just heroic. Say things like, I love how you see the world. It makes me want to slow down and see it with you. You're the kind of man who makes people feel better just by being there. When you look at me like that, I don't just feel loved, I feel chosen. They're not scripts, they're truths. And the more they come from an authentic place inside you, the more powerful they become. Because at the end of the day, men don't fall for the words alone. We fall for how those words make us feel. And when your voice becomes a space d'escape where he feels seen, safe, and deeply understood, that's when his heart truly opens. Not for a moment, but for something music real, for something that lasts. By now, you understand that true connection ain't about tricks or strategies. It's about energy, intention, and emotional presence. Music. But before we wrap this up, I want to leave you with a few bonus tips. Subtle but powerful things you can start doing right now to build deeper music connection. The kind that don't just attract a man, but keeps him emotionally invested. First, slow down. In a world of quick texts, instant swipes, and fast answers, slowing down is a secret weapon. When you slow your energy, your responses, even your breathing, you instantly music shift the dynamic. You become more grounded, more magnetic. You create space, and in that space, connection has room to grow. It tells him, I'm not in a rush. God, I'm here. I'm present. And presence is rare. Second, get comfortable with quiet moments. Not everything needs to be filled with words. In fact, real intimacy often shows up in silence, in those soft pauses where your eyes meet, or when you're sitting side by side and nothing needs to be said. When you stop fearing silence, you allow the emotional volume between you to rise. It creates a bond that's felt, not forced. Third, ask deeper questions, but not interrogations. Instead of, how was your day? Ask, what was the best part of today? Or, what's something you've been thinking about but haven't said out loud yet? These kinds of questions unlock the emotional layers most people never get to. They invite him to open, not because he's being pushed, but because he feels safe to reveal. Next, mirror his emotional tone. If he's soft, meet him there. If he's playful, let yourself play. If he's vulnerable, match his openness with your own. This ain't about becoming who he is. It's about resonating with him. Emotional mirroring, when done naturally, builds trust. It says, I get you. I feel where you're at. That's a kind of connection, music that don't need explaining. Another powerful tool, genuine curiosity. Not just about who he is on paper, but who he is in his soul. Be curious about what lights him up, about what scares him, about what makes him feel alive. People open up when they feel like somebody actually wants to know them, not just love the idea of them. And when you lead with curiosity, you're not trying to impress. You're creating emotional intimacy through interest. Also, never underestimate the power of affirmation without expectation. Sometimes the most connective thing you can say is, I see you, without needing anything in return. When a man feels appreciated, not for what he does, but for who he is, his guard drops. And the deeper truth is, men crave to be seen just as much as women do. We're just less used to receiving it. One last tip, let your energy lead. Your energy speaks louder than your words. So, before any conversation, date, or connection, check in with yourself. Are you leading from fear or faith? Are you trying to control, or are you open to flow? When your energy is calm, confident, and open, you become irresistible. You become the space where a man don't just feel attraction, he feels home. Remember, deeper connection ain't about being perfect. It's about being real, being music, emotionally responsible, present, and willing to be seen, and to truly see him in return. When you embody that kind of energy, you won't just attract love. You'll keep it. You'll nurture it. You'll build something that don't just last, but grows. Because in the end, connection ain't found. It's created. One moment of truth, presence, and vulnerability at a time. So, here's your final takeaway. Love that lasts ain't about being the most beautiful, the most giving, or even the most understanding. It's about being aligned with yourself. When you know who you are, what you want, and what you won't settle for, you naturally attract somebody who's aligned with that energy too. And that's when love stops feeling like a guessing game and starts feeling like something solid, safe, and soul deep. We've talked about what melts a man's heart, what turns him off, and how to create emotional gravity that keeps him close. But none of that matters if you're not choosing you first. Because here's the truth. Your next move ain't about trying harder to get him to love you. It's about showing up so rooted in self-worth that you magnetize the kind of love that don't ask you to shrink. If there's one thing I want you to take from this entire video, it's this. You don't have to chase love. You become it. You become the kind of woman who makes a man want to show up. Not out of obligation, not out of fear, but because being with you feels like truth, like peace, like home. Now, here's your next move. Start practicing emotional awareness. Catch yourself when you're about to react from fear. Speak to him the way you want to be spoken to. Don't be afraid to say what you want, but say it with grace, not pressure. And when in doubt, pause, breathe. Let your energy do the work. Remember, you are not here to convince anybody to stay. You're here to recognize who's worthy of walking with you. So step into that energy, claim it, live it, and watch what shifts, not just in your love life, but in how you carry yourself through everything. And if this video hit home for you, you already know what to do. Music. Like, comment, subscribe, and tell me in the comments what's one emotional shift you're going to make starting today, because this music ain't just a conversation. It's your moment, and your next level love story starts right now.